production and distribution of food and consumption of food, and corporate interest in food is one of the key areas about sustainability in the cities where 87% of us live. And it gives me particular pleasure, and I say this hand on heart, to introduce Jane Dixon, who's an old friend. We first met in International Society of Equity and Health conference in Cuba, which we were both mutually attracted to. And we had a great time skiving off, going round to the jazz clubs in the evening. But it was we lived in hope that we would hear Fidel Castro talk for 3 hours, and he was always going to come and talk, but never actually did. Nevertheless, it was a formative experience, and Jane and I have kept contact ever since, had exchange of students and ideas, and one of those serendipity things, or the fact that we are interested in the same things. In fact, our paths have continued parallel and converging again. She's now working has worked for 10 years at the National Centre for Epidemiology and Population Health, which is set up originally by Professor Tony McMichael, who will be known to many of you through his lots of seats on the left-hand side here. So Jane's working at the National Centre for Epidemiology and Population Health, where she's worked for many years in the areas of inequalities in health. She's the author of a number of books, including 7 Deadly Sins of Obesity, How the Modern World Created Obesity, and she tells me she did a sit-in to stop the editor or the publishers of the book having too plump children. Fat children eating chips on a couch, and she refused to have that on the cover. And Changing Chickens, Chooks, Cooks and Culinary Culture. And she has done work in the urban setting, which is where our interests overlap. And she's now embarking on climate change work that relates to adaptation to climate change and food systems resilience in Western Sydney. And as part of a bid that they're doing, we hope to link through to New Zealand Centre of Sustainable Cities and have exchanges backwards and forwards with the interests, I know, of many people in the audience here with the ANU. And I think this adaptation to climate change is a particularly good focus for us to have. So I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
Philippa, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to talk. And I've been in New Zealand since last Thursday. I attended Otago University's Foreign Policy School in Dunedin over the long weekend. Not the long weekend, it felt like a long weekend. Absolutely struck by, I think, how far ahead in public health terms, in food systems analyses, in the environmental and sustainability and ecology field New Zealand is. So I feel humbled to be here. I also want to say, for those who saw the abstract, civic and urban agriculture, I'm going to give a minimum of examples of community gardens or urban agriculture examples, so that there aren't many pictures. I actually think there are people here in this audience that know so much more than I do about on-the-ground examples of food growing in settings and situations other than the industrial farm. So I'm going to talk for 50 minutes or so and then turn over to you to hear how you relate to what I have to say. I'm trying to frame civic and urban agriculture as a response to the climate change pressures on cities. And in the course of putting together the argument, I'm actually got quite a lot to say about physical activity, because I've become more and more convinced that it's crazy to think about food systems separately to physical activity systems, or mobility systems as I call them. They are so entwined, and if we think about how our food was produced 80, 50 years ago, there was a lot of physical activity involved by people across the food chain, whether the farmer, the housewife doing the shopper, the people standing around in the kitchen doing the cooking that might take an hour or so rather than popping something in the microwave. So for me, food systems and physical activity systems, we need to join those up, and civic and urban agriculture provides bridges to those two systems. So this is, I'm scoping how we can think about the importance of civic and urban agriculture for population health, for environmental health, for sustainable cities. In short, my argument is that we need to re-engineer an integration between food and physical activity systems, but not the food and physical activity systems that we have now, and I'm going to say something briefly about those, but to create sustainable food and physical activity systems that are integrated. And in that way, I think we're going to contribute to more sustainable cities with benefits for the climate. So there are a lot of things hooked up in here, but what I, with my colleagues at the ANU, we're increasingly using this paradigm of co-benefits. Now, we all know that one policy decision, one social movement, like the women's movement, can have a whole lot of unintended consequences. But in the climate change work that we're doing at the ANU, we're trying to talk about co-benefits, that is, bringing the benefits from the outset, building in benefits on multiple dimensions. So if we're talking about sustainable food systems, then there are multiple benefits for physical activity, for sustainability in the cities, for greenhouse gas reductions. So there's going to be a bit of co-benefit talk throughout this. In a recent paper, my very good colleague Tony Capon and Liz Hanna have talked about the co-benefits as the benefits of policies implemented for various reasons at the same time, acknowledging that most policies designed to address greenhouse gases have other, often at least equally important rationales. So bringing things together is a theme in this talk.